And that is right. Welcome into Chasing Checkers, ESPN 102.5, The Game. We are streaming on the Game Nashville app as well. Of course, you can watch on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, all of those things, Facebook as well. TheGameNashville.com, ChasingCheckersRadio.com has all that information. Of course, this show powered by the Nashville Super Speedway. You can get your tickets for Father's Day weekend coming up June 18th, 19th, and 20th. The Ally 400 coming up at the Nashville Super Speedway. Going to be a lot of fun. Cannot wait to be out there for that. So a lot to get into on today's show. We're going to be joined by Kevin Harvick. He's going to talk to us about his second place run at Kansas, the new car, and also Keelan, how he's doing with his racing career. So we'll talk to him. Also going to chat with Jerry Caldwell, who is the general manager of the Bristol Motor Speedway, and what they're trying to do to help with the Nashville Fairgrounds and take that over, be able to renovate it, and have some NASCAR racing there once again. So there is a ton to get into today, so let's get right to it. Racing at Kansas, the Bushy McBusch Race 400, and I still love the fact that that's what it was called. Was the Bushy McBusch Race 400, but Kyle Busch on his 36th birthday, of course, Busch wins the Bushy McBusch Race 400. That makes the most sense. He gets that done, and his first win of the season, you know how important it has been, because it's been a struggle over the last couple of years for that team, that they haven't quite been there. And for them to get back to victory lane was big. The story, though, is Kyle Larson. Once again, had a really good car and a chance to win, and that does not happen. He led 132 laps on the day, ends up getting into some trouble in the last restart with Ryan Blaney, finishes 19th. So no W for him. Let's take a look at the results of the Bushy McBusch Race 400, the top 10. Kyle Busch led 20 laps on the day to his first win of the year. Kevin Harvick with a solid run coming home second. Brad Keselowski led 72 and finishes third. Another great run for Matt DiBenedetto as he finishes in the top 5 once again with a fourth place finish. The defending Cup Series champion Chase Elliott comes home fifth. Martin Truex Jr., he has another solid run with a sixth place finish. Tyler Reddick looking good as well, seventh. Chris Buescher led 13 laps on the day, and he finished 8th, so a good run for him. He's had a couple of those this year that can help take him a long way for sure in the season. William Byron comes home 9th. Austin Dillon rounds out the top 10 in the Bushy McBusch Race 400 at the Kansas Speedway. Let's hear from the race winner, Kyle Busch, on where they're at on their season and could more wins come.
I feel like we still have a little bit to gain, especially at the 750 tracks. I wouldn't say that we're the best of where we need to be on that stuff. We have definitely gained a ton of ground on the 550 package, so I feel really good about that. That was definitely a push through the off season and what we learned late last year in order to get ready for this year. So that's been a confidence booster as well as a team morale booster, with many of us being able to run closer up towards the front. So like I said, the 750 though, we've got some work there. We've got some ideas of what we need to do to work on, but next weekend's another test of that.
You have heard me say week after week that I thought that Kyle Busch would find victory lane. I thought Denny Hamlin would find victory lane. I think Kevin Harvick would find victory lane. Chase Elliott. Look, it's all happening. It's all coming. You're going to have a lot of different winners this year, which you've also heard me say is not a bad thing at all. But I will say this. I think everybody knows what Kyle Busch can do. He's a 2-time champion. He has won a ton of races in his career, over 200 in the 3 national series. He won the truck race last week. Watch out, because a confident Kyle Busch is a dangerous Kyle Busch. And I think every driver knows that. It's like Jimmy Johnson had the rabbit's foot back in the day, trying to take that away from him. Well, Kyle Busch is the same way. So you're certainly going to have to watch out for him and that dominance as his team and the driver himself get more and more confident. So something to watch. Now, the next gen car was unveiled on Wednesday by NASCAR, Chevrolet, Ford, and Toyota. This has been a long time coming. A very, very cool event, and something that I know a lot of people are excited about. They're excited to see this car, see what it can do. And now that, it's been tested quite a bit by some drivers, but now you know what the actual manufacturers are going to look like. They're going to continue to have testing. I know Steve O'Donnell answered a ton of questions. You'll hear from him in a second. But he answered a ton of questions about, are you going to have more tests with multiple cars on the track? That's something that they're looking to do. This is going to be a process. But let me tell you this. This car and the work that NASCAR has done with it over the last several years, and it was supposed to debut this year at Daytona. We know COVID slowed everything up. This is huge for the sport. It's not going to magically just change a bunch of things, but I think it's all a building block. They started after the death of Dale Earnhardt and Kenny Irwin, Adam Petty, other drivers as well. They made safety a priority. Safety was the biggest priority with the car tomorrow. The racing sucked. The car looked like crap. It had the wings. It had the braces. They still have the splitters, but they had to start somewhere. Then they went to the Gen 6, and the Gen 6 was an evolution of that. It improved a lot of things, but it took time. It wasn't just a magical, new car. Yes, car tomorrow's gone. Things are better. It looked more like a race car. It looked a little bit closer to what we were used to with the street cars, but still not perfect in that sense. Now you've taken another step with next gen. The Ford Mustang, you know what? It looks pretty damn close to a Ford Mustang. The Chevrolet Camaro looks pretty close to a Chevy Camaro. The Toyota Camry TRD looks pretty close to a Camry. So I think that is huge, because NASCAR is going back to its roots with its tracks and with the motto, win on Sunday, sell on Monday. And that's what they're trying to get back to. But I mentioned COVID. It delayed everything. And I know that was disappointing for a lot of people in the industry. But in some sense, I think it was a good thing. And Steve Phelps, the president of NASCAR, was asked about that. Were there some things that maybe they were able to work on a little bit more since they had the extra time?
For us, when COVID hit, everything just shut down. And so as hard as it was to make a decision to delay it a year, because, right now this car should be initially it was going to be on the racetrack, the Daytona 500 in 2021, but it was the right thing to do. Obviously we couldn't get parts. We couldn't, didn't know when we were going to be able to test. And so the timeline initially, and you can talk to John and Brandon about this later, the timeline was tight. Do I think we would have made it without COVID? I think the answer is yes. Has the extra time and development been helpful for us? I think so. And I think Joey talked about it, in his availability here or in the opening when he said, yeah, I tested this car a year and a half ago. So this has been a long time coming, but I think, we need to get this right. The cars obviously look fantastic. And the ability for us to create, the testing time necessary, obviously to make sure we get the parts, pieces, get these cars developed, get them on the racetrack, get them to deliver to the teams, is obviously very important for us to get right.
NASCAR has put a lot of thought, a lot of patience, a lot of blood, sweat, tears, all those things into improving their product. That goes with the current car in the rules package that some like, some don't. I do think they need more horsepower. I think that could come. It's still TBD with the new car. Steve O'Donnell said it'll be similar, but it's something they're going to tweak on. And I think everybody also needs to understand that you're not going to see just go from here, to here, a huge spectrum. No, it's radio. We got video too, but go from one end to the other and just bam, a ton of differences. I don't think it's going to be quite like that. And people need to learn that they got to be patient. There is going to be a learning curve, as driver Joey Logano said.
I think that's hard to say. Do we have our heads completely wrapped around the car we have now? I don't know, right? I mean, it's always evolving is what I'm trying to get to here. You're never where you want to be in sport. You're always looking for more. And I think as soon as you get comfortable and you say, I've reached where I'm supposed to be, next week you're going to get beat. It's just how it works. So I think the initial year of this car, every track is going to be a new track. It's just how it's going to feel. You're going to have to go out there and learn what you need in your race car to drive good, for one. But then when you get into dirty air, what are you going to need? And then we're going to have to learn the strategy of this thing. Every piece of this car is different. Every piece. They even added another gear. I mean, they've done it all here. And the brakes are different. The tires way different. The body couldn't be more different. So you tell me it's going to take forever to get somewhat close to kind of refining into a smaller box. And I think that'd be like that for all the competitors. And then, from there, you're always going to be looking for smaller gains.
Here's the fun part about that, though. We get to watch it. And I believe that the learning curve with this car is going to be much more entertaining than what we've seen in the past. I think that they've hit on something with the rules package, albeit they can continue to tweak it. We've seen some pretty good racing in the last few years. The popularity's starting to come back. You're seeing that with the television ratings. You're seeing that at the racetrack. Obviously, COVID has slowed a lot of that down, but now that they're letting people back in, they're going to the races. They're watching the races. New fans are there. This car is just going to add to it. And I'm going to be very curious to see, how it handles at Daytona, how it handles at Atlanta, how it handles at Bristol, all these different types of tracks. I believe with the new transmission, and to give you some of the highlights with this, the look I've already mentioned, that the manufacturer, they have greater latitude, as they have put it, in incorporating features that make it look like their car. Sleek new design. They lowered the greenhouse, shortened the deck lid, and widened the track width of the car, giving it more of a coupe look. Looks like a car. The body is fully symmetrical, which will reduce some of the aerodynamic forces and put an emphasis back on the race car setup and the driver control. That should make you very happy. It means you actually have to know how to drive a race car. You actually have to know how to set up a race car. That's what they're going for. They're putting it back in the hands of the driver. And that, yeah, you want to have a good car, but you got to have a talented driver too. And I think, as Joey Logano was talking about that learning curve, you're going to see the best drivers go up here, go to the top. The ones that just are that darn good at it, you're going to see them really excel at this. And then there are going to be others that there's going to be a larger learning curve. And I think you're going to notice that pretty quickly. New 18-inch aluminum wheels, new wider Goodyear tires, and as we know, no more multiple lug nuts, just one big one in the center. Different brakes, so some other components, updated specs to match modern passenger vehicle technology, including an independent rear suspension, rack and pinion steering, and larger brakes. Interested on that. A lot of different other things that you can go to chasingcheckersradio.com. We've put all that on the website to kind of talk about what is going on with the new car. But like I said, it's going to take time. And NASCAR has not set a timetable of, hey, this is when we get to this point, we're not going to tweak anymore. This is what we want it to be. They're going to continue to tweak as they go. Steve O'Donnell, Executive Vice President, this has been his baby for the last several years, commented on that.
I think everyone will want to judge it, after the Daytona 500. That's the nature of our business. But in reality, I think you do need to take the full year and even into 2023, candidly, because, you've seen even between last year and this year, the difference, even with a lot of the rules in place, the number of winners we've had this year, and just the difference in how different teams are performing. So we'll take a look at, each and every track. I think it would be fair if you looked at, the first time we went to a venue, how did that relate to the second race? What are the changes that we may or may not have seen? And then it'll be our job to work with the industry and make sure that the reasons for this car and the reasons we put it together remain intact. That's to deliver the best racing possible and make sure that we keep it within the bounds of allowing as many teams to go out there and compete for wins.
And that's what I love about NASCAR. It's what I love about this new NASCAR that we've seen over the last few years with Steve Phelps, Steve O'Donnell, guys like that in charge, Mike Helton in the chairman's role. They've done a tremendous job of you know what? We're going to try something. If it works, great. If it doesn't, we go back to the drawing board. We're not afraid to try new things. They're doing that with the schedule. They're doing that with the car. And as I said, you're going to see the most talented drivers show out. You know, the Denny Hamlins of the world. You're going to see them really show what they can do. And Denny, at the unveiling, talked about adapting and having to do that throughout his career, and now is no different.
My dad always used to tell me when people asked, I was moving up through the ranks, they said, oh, you might be moving them up too fast or this, that, and the other. He always says, listen, race car driving is race car driving. It's just a different machine, right? And you still, what I really took a lot of pride in is that when anything different got thrown my way, I feel like I adapted quickly, whether it be my rookie season, winning at Pocono. That's a very unique track that nothing like I ever raced at before. Like, I was able to adapt when we went through COVID last year, no practice and qualifying. Me and my team were able to adapt to that. So I think that's where I hopefully will shine in this, is that I can use my experience and information that we have to adapt to this whole new machine quicker than everyone else. That's my goal.
But I'll tell you this. The unknown in all of this is my favorite part. The fact that I'm going to be, hopefully, at the Daytona International Speedway for the Daytona 500, sitting there going, I don't know what the hell to expect. Just like you always feel at Daytona or Talladega, but different. Because the next week, I'm not going to know what the hell to expect. Because this car is different. And I think that's fun. I think that's fun to the fan. I think it's fun to the driver. And Chase Elliott, when asked about this car in general, said, listen, we got to get it. We got to race it. That's how we're going to learn. We're going to learn by driving the car and racing it.
Well, that's a tough one because we haven't raced it yet. So, I mean, to be completely honest and blunt about it, I mean, until we get on track and we can really understand what the challenges are, I don't know that anybody can answer that question honestly. Somebody might give you an answer, but if it's probably not going to be honest, because I don't really think anybody knows. So until we, get out there and honestly, there's challenges that I don't think even Eric having time to go test the car, I don't think we've faced all the challenges yet. So we just need more time with it. And, I know COVID's been a bad situation, but I'm personally thankful for this extra year that we've had to develop. I know from our end, I'm sure all the OEMs are, to give us more time to work on this thing. But from a driver standpoint, I think until we get out on the track and we start mixing it up and seeing how the racing differs from your super speedways to your 1.5 miles to your short tracks, there's a lot of unknowns, and I'm in the majority. I think when I say I don't know about everything there is to know about the racing, I think it's all a big question mark.
Yeah.
You've heard me talk about over the last few weeks. We had Justin Marks on the show a few weeks ago, who's the co-owner of Trackhouse Racing, and they started their team this year, and he mentioned that this new car was the big reason why they were jumping in, because the costs, it costs less than the current car, so it opens the door for more teams to come in. You saw 2311 start this year, but you're going to see even more owners come in. So what about manufacturers? Because I think that's the other component in this. That's going to be very important. Chevrolet, Ford, Toyota are all great. I think people love having those three there. But I believe that racing has been at its best when you've had more than three. I mean, I liked it when Dodge was there. I know economics kind of got in the way. They pulled back out. They've left the sport twice now, so I'm not saying necessarily they come back. But what if Nissan jumped in? What if Honda jumped in? I think that would be good for the sport, because I remember the days of Buick, Oldsmobile, Pontiac, Chevrolet, and I know those are all under the GM banner, but they were still different makes, and it tied back into that win on Sunday, sell on Monday mentality. But I think it would be big to help support a team like, I'll use Front Row as an example, that, yes, they won the Daytona 500, but they don't get the same support from Ford that a Stewart-Haas does. You bring in another manufacturer, some of that could change. NASCAR President Steve Phelps talked about that.
Well, listen, I think that our existing OEMs would like a fourth or fifth competitor to be on the racetrack with. We've got three phenomenal OEMs that we have now. You can't say enough about what Chevy, Ford, and Toyota do for the sport and how important they are for the sport. So would it nice to have another one? Yeah, I think it would be nice. I think it help in a number of different areas, not just competing with the other three OEMs, but also provide some additional support to the garage, which is important. The dollars only go, so far, and you get kind of the mid to the backpack of the garage don't get a ton of additional support from our OEMs. Having additional OEM, I think, would certainly help in that area.
The bottom line in all of this is NASCAR's evolution continues, and Wednesday was huge. Wednesday was awesome to see that unveiling, to see what those new cars look like, and to see the excitement on the drivers' faces and drivers talking about it. They put it on iRacing already. They raced it that night at Darlington for the iRacing event, and now you can get it as well on iRacing. I think that's fantastic that they've already done that. So it's going to continue to get better and better, and I know I am looking forward to seeing it on the track in a racing setting. When we come back here on Chasing Checkers, we're going to catch up with the driver, the number 4 Stewart-Haas Racing Ford. Kevin Harvick will join us when we come back. ESPN 102.5 The Game Nashville app. We are back on Chasing Checkers here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, and as promised, we say hello to the driver of the number 4 Stewart-Haas Racing Ford, also known as Keelan's dad. Kevin Harvick is here with us on the show. Kevin, how you doing?
Yeah, that's quite the introduction there. I've taken that Keelan's dad thing a little more than I probably expected, but doing good.
Is he okay? You posted a video yesterday, and I'm going to be completely honest with you. I've laughed at it every time I've watched it, but every guy knows what that feels like. It doesn't feel good. He was trying to show an exercise off, and it went horribly wrong. But is he okay?
Yeah. Well, for all of you that have young boys, understand that they do a lot of things that are probably not the smartest things that you could probably be doing. And sometimes you just have to learn the hard way. And yesterday, or I guess it was yesterday or the day before, I lose track of my days, but he obviously learned his new exercise that he wanted to show everybody, learned the hard way that probably wasn't the right exercise to be doing. So he's fine. Look, it's pretty much a daily happening that he winds up hurt in some way, shape, or form. So he's usually falling down, tripping, doing new exercises, whatever the case is. But yeah, he's fine.
Yeah, he has the cast, of course, had a injury and all of that. But how fun has it been for you you're obviously still very much in your career focused on that, winning races, but mentoring him. Piper's been in the go-kart as well, but watching him start his career at a very young age.
Yeah, so sports it's just different than when I grew up, and racing is no different than any other sport. I think as you look at the outlets that these kids have in today's world, they just have a lot more opportunity to do things at a much younger age than what we did. But for me, it's been as much of a learning curve as it probably has been for him, just because of the fact that trying to be dad and trying to teach him how to do the things that he needs to do. And it's not exactly always smooth, I guess would be the best way to put it. But, I think he's definitely learning as we go as to how to deal with all the information that we give him. We tend to overload him with information because there's just, in today's world, there's data on everything. You have throttle sensors, brake sensors, steering sensors, cameras. So, there's nowhere to hide from your mistakes, and excuses don't work. And we tend to hold him accountable in pretty much every situation, and until the weekend's over. So, it's we're not even a year into it, and really, if it wasn't for COVID, his racing would have never started. And we were sitting on our iRacing simulators one day, and he asked why we weren't going to the go-kart track more. And I said, because you haven't asked. And that's really how everything started, because we were all at home and didn't have anything going on. And he was curious to go back out and try, and it evolved into going to the local go-kart track here at GoPro Motorplex and started racing. And from that, we progressed and started racing him all over the country on a national level as we went, through the end of last year and into this year. So it's been fun. It's been a learning experience for everybody, but he continues to get better, and that's really all you can ask is that he's progressing and having fun with it at the same time.
It's fun to watch for sure. We're talking to Kevin Harvick here on Chasing Checkers. So let's talk about you. 9 wins last year, still looking for the first one this year. But what did last week's run at Kansas do for you guys and then you're going to a track this weekend that you've been very good at Darlington. So what did it do to get you guys closer and closer to get into victory lane?
Yeah, so many of the racetracks are just with all the different aero package and different styles of tracks and different engine packages. There's just so much to take in. I think, for us last week at Kansas was definitely a step in the right direction on our 1.5 mile program. I think as we've gone through the beginning of this year, obviously, there's been some changes to the cars and have got us a little bit behind the 8 ball. As far as where we want to be from a speed standpoint, but our team's done a good job. We've dealt with some tire issues at a couple races and flat tires, and for the most part, our team has done a great job in scrambling and getting decent finishes. But the expectations are to lead laps and win races, and so it's definitely been a little bit of a project trying to get everything back to where it needs to be. So I think as you go to Darlington, it's been a great racetrack for us, and the expectations are just as high as they are every other week, but you just have to see where the race starts and go from there with no practice or qualifying. For everybody is a little bit of a guess as to where you're going to start the race, and the start of our races haven't been where we wanted them to be. We've kind of been scrambling week after week to adjust on the car and get our cars where they need to be, but our guys are doing a good job of keeping us in the game. We've been getting okay finishes, and I think last week at Kansas was wild there at the end with all the restarts, and you just never know until it's over. So we'll just keep scrapping and trying to keep getting those good finishes, just because with the way that everything is right now, solid finishes and keeping yourself up in the points results in a good starting spot. So that gives us a little bit of a buffer at the beginning of the race, if our car's off, and gives us a chance to work on it and go from there.
I want to ask you that the new car has been unveiled for all 3 manufacturers, and there's been a lot of discussions with this car and what it's going to do for the sport. You've been a team owner at the Xfinity Series level. Obviously, Tony and Gene, your car owners, they know how expensive this is. How much is this truly going to help the sport of reducing some costs so we can see benefit to the current owners and even see some new owners come into the sport?
Yeah, so I haven't actually spent a lot of time with the new car. I've not driven it, hadn't seen it until it was unveiled, except for some clips here and there on social media. I think from the team owner's side, it's obviously going to be expensive to get everything transitioned and started. But on the flip side of that is also a great opportunity for new team owners to come into the sport and get started on somewhat of an equal footing with buying new cars and doing the things that it takes to start up a race team. And, I think if it goes the way that it's planned out on a piece of paper, I think it should be more efficient as you get 3 or 4 years down the road and take, less people to do the things that it takes to put the cars on the racetrack. So it's going to be an evolution. I think as I sit back and think about all the different generations of cars that I've watched be designed and change, and I think everybody just has to understand there's going to be some change. No matter how much you think it's planned out or what the scenario is, there's going to be some things that are going to have to be changed when it gets into the real world in the hands of the race teams, and you actually have to go race it. There are going to be problems that pop up that nobody thought about. But I think that as you look at the car going forward and the potential of new team owners and more team owners, and you look at the prices of the charters and who needs them and who wants them and who has them, and the enthusiasm that it has brought from the ownership front is very exciting. And, I think making it more relevant for the manufacturers is as important as anything that we've done in the past. So lots of positives to go with the new car.
Absolutely. Well, Kevin, I know you got a busy schedule. Appreciate you taking the time to join me here today. Best of luck at Darlington, and best of luck to Keelan as he continues his career as well. Appreciate it.
No problem. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too. We're back here on Chasing Checkers, ESPN 102.5, The Game, of course, streaming on theGameNashville.com and the Game Nashville app as well. Pleased to be joined by Jerry Caldwell. He is the general manager of the Bristol Motor Speedway, and there's a lot to unpack with him because of everything that's been going on. First thing I want to start out with, have you cleaned up yet since the dirt race there at Bristol a few weeks ago? A lot of fun. I know the weather didn't cooperate with you, but you guys were able to get the show in, and you're going to do it again next year. Really cool concept and an awesome weekend.
Yeah, it was. We're still in the process of cleaning up, but it really was a successful weekend. A lot of fun for several weeks. I mean, we started back in early March and had 5 weekends of racing and just finished up with the World of Outlaws folks doing kind of 2 weekends there. But overall, dirt in Bristol was a huge success. Tremendous response from the fans, and we were really excited about it.
When did you know that this was not going to be a one and done thing, that you guys were going to do it again next year? I know you made the announcement during the race on Monday, but when did all of that kind of come together?
Well, I mean, when you do something like that, when you start, you hope that that's going to be something that really you can create some momentum with these events, because you're always going to learn ways to do it better. And, so that was our hope from the get-go, that if we could do this and do it the right way, that this could really be something that could be replicated and then improved upon. And then, really after the Dirt Nationals, and then seeing the success of the cars on the track for NASCAR, we knew that, this thing works. We have something here, and this is something that we can definitely repeat and do again next year. So really through that process, the hope was there from the beginning. But through that process of putting a lot of cars on the track, I mean, that Bristol Dirt Nationals weekend, which was the weekend before our NASCAR race, we had 1,400 race teams for that event. And so we put a lot of cars on the track for that one, and had a terrific response from the teams and the fans. So we knew the track could withstand it.
So you mentioned the World of Outlaws. I actually, a few years ago, worked a World of Outlaws event at the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, which is the perfect transition for why we're having you on today. It was really cool to see them pull that off and put dirt on that track. Granted, it was a smaller setup than what you all did, but I know the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway has been near and dear to you and to everybody working at the Bristol Motor Speedway, and it feels like things are inching closer and closer to an agreement where you all are going to come in and fix up this historic track, and NASCAR is going to be able to make its way back to this short track right in the middle of our city. Why has this been a project that you all at Bristol and Marcus and Bruton Smith have wanted to take on to help bring big-time NASCAR racing back to Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway?
Well, it's because we've seen the vision. Really, Marcus and Bruton have seen that vision from the beginning. We've been working on this for a few years now with different administrations, and all along they've seen not only a diamond in the rough in Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, something that has over 100 years history in our sport of motorsports, but also in this city. And they know what they can do with the venue. They know when we put that Marcus and Bruton touch on it, and that Speedway Motorsports touch, we can really create a special venue, and move it from just being a racetrack, protect that history, restore it to its rightful place, but also create a venue that can be used for other things, community events, corporate events, other types of non-racing events the rest of the year.
And you mentioned the history there. I mean, you've seen what this market in Nashville, how big of a racing market it is, not just NASCAR, but I mean, look at this year alone. What's going to happen? This summer you're going to have the Music City Grand Prix, which is IndyCar, that's going to race on our streets. You're obviously going to have NASCAR returning to the Nashville Super Speedway for a Cup Series weekend and the first Cup Series weekend since 1984, and then the Fairgrounds is going to host SRX in July with Tony Stewart and Ray Evernham and what they have put together. So, as you said, the thirst for racing in this community is there, and I truly believe adding the Fairgrounds to the mix is not, it's not going to be a competition. It's just going to add to it. It's just going to give people more of that appetite for racing, and I think it's really cool to have you all involved.
Absolutely. Well, thanks. We're excited about it. We think it's all additive. We think just like that Fairgrounds property, there are great things that are going on out at the Fairgrounds property. The MLS stadium, that mixed use, a new expo center. This is the last piece, which really has been historically was the anchor of that Fairgrounds property would be the Speedway. And, over the years has fallen into a bit of disrepair, really needs a significant investment in it. And what we want to bring to the table is that the opportunity to bring events. Yes, we are talking about a NASCAR weekend, but we aren't talking about more racing here. I know some in the community are concerned that there will be a lot of races throughout the year. We're not talking about any more races than currently are going on. Same number. We just think we can do them in a different way to create more revenue around them and allow that to help pay for these improvements to the property. We also, in our plan, have plans to add sound barrier to be able to address some of that sound impact for that neighborhood, because we know that's another important piece. And then also address the racing surface and bringing that up to safety standards for local racing, because we want to protect local racing and make sure that it can continue and flourish, but also bring in some new events that can really bring excitement to the community, things that people can come out and enjoy, and also allow us to make an investment in upgrading that facility.
We're talking to Jerry Caldwell. He's the GM of the Bristol Motor Speedway, talking about the Fairgrounds and the proposal that is there with the city. So what is the timetable here, Jerry? Because we know the letter of intent was signed by the mayor and by Bristol. Dale Jr. was in town for that, because I know he's had a lot to do with this process, and Darrell Waltrip as well, others that love that speedway. But what is now the timetable to actually getting this agreement done and being able to start construction and start renovating the speedway?
So right now we're in a lot of conversations with the Fair Board around getting some agreements put in place, what contracts could look like. We're working closely with the Metro development folks on designs and what the construction process would look like. And so right now and then community engagement, community conversations with a lot of the neighborhoods around, and then the community as a whole. So, and we want to hear from the community. We want to hear the things that they have concerns with and make sure we can address those. And then the things they're excited about. Racing's going to be taking place at the Fairgrounds. So this is really just a question of how you want the racing to be, what do you want it to be like, and what do you want the facility to look like? So we're deep into talks around that. And then we hope to be able to have something wrapped up over the next few months so that we can really move into a construction phase and a really moving earth and making some changes out there that and restoring that grandstand and other things to make sure that it's a really special showpiece that it deserves to be.
Yeah, and I know people have said 2022 seems difficult to think that's when it could happen, and obviously that's why you want to get things moving. But with the potential end goal of being, or with the end goal of being a mixed use facility, having the same number of races that are there, but obviously having NASCAR be a part of that, and whether it's a cup weekend or what have you, in your mind, is 2023 the goal to try and make that happen, so you can begin to bring in the revenue to help pay for all the things that you're going to be doing?
That's correct. Yeah, we would be looking for kind of the first full season under a new Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, or renewed Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway would be that 2023 season. We'd want to be careful if we're able to start construction and do things towards the end of this year. We'd want to work closely with the existing events that typically go on, local racing and others, to see how we can not interrupt their plans for a 2022 season. And we think we've got some ideas on how we can work around that. Still have some events in 22, but 23 really be this restored, revitalized Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway season.
Well, I know one thing, as somebody that the first race I ever saw was out at the Nashville Fairgrounds, and just with everything going into it. And, you know, I've been working closely with the folks at the Nashville Super Speedway. I'm thrilled that they're back. I'm thrilled that they're going to have a weekend. I'm worked with the Music City Grand Prix. I'm thrilled that they're here as well. And I just look at it as the more the merrier, because I love racing. I've been to Bristol many times, was actually there for the dirt race, and unfortunately had to come back for work and didn't get to stay. But I know that there are a lot of people in this community that are very thankful for the effort that you all are putting forth for this, and I can't wait. It feels like it's almost here, and it's going to happen.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thanks for that support, and we're excited about it too. We really feel like there is a tremendous opportunity to take something and make it special, to make it better for the community, but also just a better speedway, or a revitalized speedway, and protect that history. And, you know, those that are supportive, we encourage them to reach out and let their elected officials know.
Well, and before I let you go, for those that maybe aren't on board yet, what would be your message to them that might, you know, be able to answer some of the concerns that they may have, whether it's the noise or the traffic? I mean, you know, one thing that anybody that's ever been to a racetrack, whether it's Bristol or Talladega or Daytona, I mean, yeah, you're going to deal with traffic. It's a big sporting event. A lot of people are allowed into a facility in normal times. So what would be some things that you could say that somebody listening to this that isn't so sure, it might help ease their mind?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, you know, I think the conversation here really is, racing is going to be taking place at the Fairgrounds Speedway because of the 2011 referendum, and it's charter protected. So it's one of those events that is going to take place at the fairgrounds. So the question really is, how do you want that racing to be taking place, and in what facility? So if I were over there and skeptical, I would say, okay, this means less days of cars on the track. Probably we would have the same number of event weekends, probably a fewer test days. There's more certainty on when those events are going to be taking place. We would have schedule certainty. We're going to put measures in place to reduce the sound impact with sound walls and sound mitigation. And then you're bringing an organization to the table in Speedway Motorsports and Bristol Motor Speedway that's what we do all day, every day across the country, is we work towards putting on events. So we work in traffic management, we work in moving people around, working with the municipalities and the local governments on the best way to do that and make sure that we do it the right way. And then we're also interested in doing a long-term agreement so that we're here and we want to be a contributing part of the community. We want to create a Speedway Children's Charities chapter and work closely with nonprofits to make sure that if we're in the community, we're making an impact and we're making a difference. Yeah, we're creating fun and we're putting on great events, but that we're making our community a better community. So that would be my pitch, is what's in it for me, and those are the things that are in it for me.
Absolutely. Well, anything that I can do to help, always happy to do so, and very excited about what's possible here. And it's good to talk to you as always. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it, Chase.
Hey, you know what? I did say it was throwback weekend, so let's throw it back. Chasing Checkers throwback for Throwback Weekend. Excited about it. It's going to be cool. That was the theme, the open that I used for the podcast show for several years. And if you're watching on YouTube, then you see the old logo as well to throw it back, and that'll be on Twitter. So got to do a little bit of the throwback here on Chasing Checkers as we wrap things up. The Goodyear 400. Appreciate Kevin Harvick and Jerry Caldwell for joining us. Again, if you miss anything or want extended content, because we do have that, just subscribe to the podcast, search for Chasing Checkers wherever you get your podcasts, or you can always go to thegamenashville.com, chasingcheckersradio.com for all of that stuff. So, as I mentioned, the Darlington Raceway, it is throwback. Usually they do the throwback weekend for the Southern 500 on Labor Day weekend, but since they added the second race for Darlington this year, after they had 3 last year, because of COVID, they put throwback weekend in the spring. They're going to race on Mother's Day, which is something that NASCAR has typically not done before. They've raced Mother's Day weekend the day before, but not on Mother's Day as a whole. So that's going to be different as well. Love some of the paint schemes that are out there, but to give you some stats before we get to Sunday Money, Kevin Harvick and Denny Hamlin each have 3 wins at Darlington. Here's the funny thing about Kevin Harvick. 2 of those wins came last year, the other coming in 2014. Denny Hamlin won last year in one of the 3 races, and then 2017 and 2010. Other active drivers with wins at the Darlington Raceway include Eric Jones in 2019, Brad Keselowski in 2018, Martin Truex Jr. in 2016, and Kyle Busch back in 2008. So without further ado, and we've taken a lot of time on a lot of different things, we will spend a little more on Darlington next week. Let's get to Sunday Money. All right, Sunday Money this week. Let's take a look at what we have for that. The favorite is Kyle Larson for the Goodyear 400. He has done well at these types of racetracks, so he comes in as the favorite. And again, these odds from BetMGM. Kevin Harvick I have installed number 1 at plus 750. I mentioned the 3 wins that he has, 2 of those coming last year. Brad Keselowski at plus 950. Chase Elliott came so close to winning one of these last year, plus 1,000. I have them, and then the long shot, Ryan Blaney at plus 2,200. So there you go, your Sunday Money picks. And a reminder, if you are not following along on any of the social media channels, whether it's at Chasing_Checkers on Twitter, Chasing Checkers Radio on Instagram, Chasing Checkers Radio on Facebook, I do update these after the show as the odds get updated. So be sure to keep up with all that and check that out as well, because you don't want to miss those results as they might change. Real quick, before we get out of here, let's take a look at the starting lineup for the Goodyear 400 at the Darlington Raceway. Brad Keselowski will lead the way. He is on the pole. Kevin Harvick second. Kyle Busch third. Martin Truex Jr. fourth. William Byron rolls off fifth. Chase Elliott, the defending Cup champion, sixth. Denny Hamlin seventh. Matt DiBenedetto eighth. Austin Dillon ninth. And Tyler Reddick will roll off 10th. So there you go for your top 10. That is going to do it for another edition of Chasing Checkers. It's been a fun one. Again, my thanks to Kevin Harvick and Jerry Caldwell for joining. There's going to be a lot of news rolling out. It is that time of year. But I know that I am excited about it, as are all of you. Subscribe to the podcast. Check us out, thegamenashville.com, chasingcheckersradio.com, and join us every Saturday at 9 right here on ESPN 102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.